Welcome back, folks. As always, you can always reach me, Frank, at dearcrabby9@gmail.com. And you can always telephone in your questions to 312-725-9973. And keep in mind, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, and I probably won't be one at this point in my life, but I'm happy to help with some common sense advice if I can. So this question is coming to us from probably a young lady, I'm guessing here. And I've titled this one, Parental Vision Isn't Always 2020. So she says, I was writing to see if you could give me some advice about my mother and me. I need advice on how to deal with a relationship my mom is in. It's a very bad one. Her boyfriend has recently cheated on her and she feels it's her fault. And my sister and brother all feel he is wrong for her. She just won't listen to anything that we have to say. She won't even listen to us. He makes her believe it's all her fault, and it's not. She was always telling him to get out, and now that he's found someone else, she says she loves him and he loves her, which she thinks is bullcrap, she puts. I don't know how to deal with it all, she says. Recently, she told me she was going to kill herself. That really scared me. Now I know he's wrong for her, and I hate her for being so stupid and naive. Please give me some advice. I just want to see my mother happy for once in her life instead of always crying and being sad. Please help before I lose my wonderful mother because of a jerk. Sincerely, daughter caught in a wounded heart. So this is pretty sad, and I kind of guess that this might be going on, obviously, all over the place with situations like this because love is blind. That's the problem here. The kids can see it, but the mother can't see it. And it's a very delicate situation because how do you approach your mother in a situation like this? And I think, firstly, the one thing that you have to do is really keep an eye on your mom and reach out and get help if you think that she really is serious about doing something dangerous to herself. I mean, if it's that bad, you need to reach out to other family members and such just to try to get her some help in that respect. So keep an eye on that. But, what can you do as a child? And you see that your parents, in this case, she's in a bad relationship. The only thing you can do is sit down and talk to her about it and say that you can see what's going on and that you support her if she should want to move on to somebody else. And it looks like she really probably should. And that's about all you can do is just kind of be there for your mom and try to let her understand that you don't necessarily think this is right, but you support her in what she wants to do as a child. It's difficult because you've got that equation and you all know love is blind. And parents don't always know it. Like in this situation, they can't see themselves through this situation. So you really have to just be there for your mom. So this next question I've entitled, Thanks for the Memories. And she writes in to say, Hello, Frank. I'm a mother of 2 teen children. I've been with their father for 17 years now, and we've been through thick and thin together, but we've never married. As the time has passed by, I've been pretty bored with our relationship. I haven't left my other because, as fate would have it, he has had 2 strokes during our relationship. I've taken care of family expenses, and he took care of the kids. We live in separate apartments, and although he's working now and very happy, all he does is talk about work and then goes home. My kids love their father, yet day by day I continue growing distant with this relationship. I've also met a younger man who calls me and says all the nice things. He even asked me to marry him. He doesn't really know me well, yet I think about him more than I do my kid's father and wishing to be with him. Yes, I'm feeling pretty stupid thinking things can happen to a middle-aged woman, but I long for so many things my kid's father never gave me. Every time he sees me, he tells my kids that I don't take responsibility with them or my home. On the other hand, I'm the one that has to work all day and then come home to clean after them, and all he does is go to his house and stay in his home. I get left with all the mess. He said he'd never marry me, and so he meant it. He feels that I'm a bad mother and that I should have never had kids. And that is the only reason he is with me. Otherwise, I'd be alone. If I can only find a way to find myself and set my chains free without hurting anyone, just being free to do the things that I love most, and most of all, be loved again. I miss the way I'm happy, never thinking about the negative side of things. Lost and confused. How can I live again? How? Well, I hate to tell you this, but after 17 years together, I think you've done the hard work, and he's gotten the easy end of the stick here. And he's kind of made you feel a little bit debased here, hasn't he? With what he's told you is that he doesn't think that you should have had kids, and the only reason why he still continues to be with you is because of that reason. I think the guy's toxic at this stage, to be honest with you. I don't think there's any problem with cutting him off, because it has turned into a toxic relationship for you. And my advice would be to sit down with him and communicate to him that you've got somebody else, despite the fact that he probably thought that you would never be able to find anybody else. You have. And at this stage of your life, I think it's time for you, and I'm talking as you were talking to him, I think it's time for you to just move on from their relationship. And he's welcome to see the kids, it sounds like. You guys still have a great relationship, but you need to think about yourself. After 17 years of pulling the hard road, taking care of the kids, it sounds like you've had the abundance of all the duties, to be honest. And he just kind of prances in. And sure, he supports the kids, which is great, and you can thank him for that. But it's time for you to think about yourself. So this next question is a little bit different. There is someone else out there that provides advice, like a lot of different ladies, mostly. I don't get it. Why don't more guys do this? So there's one out there called Dear Amy, and she had somebody write in, and she gave some advice that I thought was just a little weird, and I don't know. I just think that Dear Amy just sort of went off the rails here, which is strange, right, for a nationally syndicated advice columnist to go off the rails, but I think she did. So I'm going to read it out to you, and let me see what you guys think. So this writer writes in and says, Dear Amy, I have a wonderful marriage of several decades with Lance. In many ways, Lance holds up his end of the roommate bargain that comes with a long-term relationship. It's weird that she says he holds up his end of the roommate bargain because she's been married to him for decades. Roommate? No, I think it's it's not a roommate, honey. It's a marriage. She writes on to say, he cooks half the time, helps me in the garden, even though it's my interest and not his. He does his own laundry, etc. All that said, he's a terrible slob in the kitchen, and in many ways, that causes problems. He chops fruit for his breakfast and leaves the peels and rinds on the juice-soaked cutting board, slices pieces from the loaf of bread and leaves it on the sink counter amidst piles of crumbs, and leaves his meal leftovers in places piled in the sink. I've tried everything from strongly reprimanding him to cleaning up after him like he's a toddler, and I'm his mother, to ignoring it, hoping he'll see how bad it gets. However, I travel for work and often gone for a few nights at a time, during which time the kitchen becomes a disaster zone. I can't constantly stay on top of it, and I shouldn't have to. Now we have fruit flies, house flies, and mice. This morning, as I swept away the chopped fruits and dried fruit that didn't make it into his oatmeal that morning, a mouse dashed out from behind the fruit bowl and ran across the counter, then leapt behind the refrigerator. I feel like I'm dealing with a messy, privileged toddler. I can't afford a daily housekeeper, and I can't seem to convince him that this is important, even as the mice leave trails of droppings behind them. How do I get him to clean up after himself in the kitchen? Oh my gosh. Not his mother, she signs it. So she goes on to say, Dear Amy, goes on to say blah, blah, blah. She gives some kind of pointed advice. But at the end of it, she says, tell him I'm so frustrated by this. The next time I find food waste festering on the counter and sink, I'm going to serve it to you as a salad. And then when this happens again, scoop up all the peelings, the leavings, the mouse poop, and put it all into a container with a lid and leave it on his plate. Draw a heart on it and post-it note and stick it on the lid. Nom nom. I mean, my God, has she lost it here? I mean, literally take up all that stuff and then just put it back and leave it on his plate. I mean, that's a little passive aggressive, to be honest with you. I would not advise that. The problem here is that you've been married for decades and you've got a slob for a husband. And this is what happens when you just let it go. I think what should have happened here a long time ago is that you laid it out and said, hey, listen, you're going to have to start cleaning it up. Just lay it on the line. I mean, this guy's a slob, and tell him so. He's going to have to start cleaning it up, or you're going to have a maid come in just to clean, and he's going to pay for it. That's what you need to do. Folks, I want to thank you for joining me. Don't forget, you can always find me at dearcrabby9@gmail.com. Send me your questions, or you can call me at 312-725-9973. I'm Frank. I want to thank you for joining me. Until next time.